Welcome, everyone, to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past broadcasts are podcasts. Find them at ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your questions and comments. Please use DJ at ArtistFirst.com. And now here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, it's going to be a good one, guys.
Welcome to the Soul of the Everyman, where the points don't matter.
Yeah. It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. It's been a long week, and it's only Tuesday.
That's true.
I'm getting very anxious.
Oh, dear.
But it's okay, because tonight we're going to do the Prison of Anxiety Continued.
Mm-hmm.
If that doesn't scare you.
If that doesn't scare you, nothing will.
But tonight we're going to talk about escaping the prison, because last week our Prison of Anxiety show was terrific in my opinion, but it was going a little long, and in fact, what we're going to try to do is make this sort of a two-part show in one regard, because we're not going to reprise a lot of what we talked about last week. So you're just going to have to go back and find it, which isn't that hard. And we're going to kind of pick up almost where we left off, but just to very briefly bring perhaps the new audience up on board. The topic is the prison of anxiety from the point of view of the depths to which anxiety, or what we really had said was the overthinking, the prison of forever not living in the present moment. Anxiety is there, just to give you again a little bit, just expand it just one more second. The two forms of not living in the present are regret and anxiety. Regret is always talking about looking at the past. But in this particular case, what we're talking about is people who are forever living in the future. The present is just the moment within which you worry about the future, or within which you say, I'd like something different from now. And that is a prison. That is a prison in a true sense, in that you spend your every waking moment in a state of in essence, fear, or at least apprehension about what might happen, what could happen. You know, what's happening with my loved ones? What's happening with my children? What can I do to prepare for the next moment? And what happens about this? And
worry.
And so last week's show, we talked a lot about the fact that worry and anxiety and, in essence, this constant state of overthinking and fear are a prison. And what we were coming to at the very end of that show was some of the ways in which we can get out of, some sort of guidance that can be used to escape the prison of anxiety. So that's where we're going to pick up here. Mm-hmm. And Margaret, you were in the middle of beginning that, so do you want to go back to where you were, or?
Well, what I'd like to do is start with the quote by Tolle.
What a great idea.
Mm-hmm. It is not necessary to do things in a state of anxiety or anguish. That is not the way to be aligned with life. Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle.
Mm-hmm. And basically, him focusing on, first of all, the simple acknowledgement that you do not have to reside in a state of anxiety or anguish. It is a state that does occur to all of us, but you can choose not to be in that state. And most of us would say, well, wait a minute, because the first time I heard of it, I was like, you can? I was always taught to worry about everything. What do you mean I don't have to worry? And looking at it, taking it apart, realizing that worrying or being anxious about something puts you in that state of anguish. That you can spin so tight in your worry, chasing everything that could go wrong, chasing it all down, that you wind up falling into a state of anguish. It hurts, and it physically hurts your body at that point. It's realizing that it is also a state of fear. So little fears are like your little worry about something, or you might be a bit anxious about something. But it can build and build until you get to a state of full-blown fear. And there is no peace in fear. In fact, the only thing that seems real to you is all the fear that you've been chasing down. And that has been your decision to focus on that awful possibility and then elaborate on it. So in this society, we have been trained to always look for the thing that can go wrong. What is it? Murphy's Law? Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. We all know that one. We quote it, and it's like a jest at this point. But the truth is, we have always run down that particular set of thought patterns because we've been told this is the way you are supposed to do things. Because if you do this, that means you really care about whatever's going on.
There's also, Tolle himself suffered from this type of anxiety for many, many, many years. It can come, you mentioned anguish. The end state of this sort of constant worry is paralyzing.
Yes.
And with, particularly with folks who indulge in this as a form of, as you mentioned, sort of a form of showing their care or concern, it can become sort of an endemic, constant, a paralyzing fear for those who you love, that something bad might happen to them. So you'd be overprotective. You can also end up in the state where, as Tolle was, where he would spend his nights not sleeping, worrying about what was going to happen, where he was going to find money. Why wouldn't he have a job? Why couldn't he have this degree? Why couldn't he get into this college? Why couldn't he find a girlfriend? Why couldn't he, live in better circumstances? Worrying about money, worrying about success, worrying about what people thought of him. And this form of anxiety and anguish paralyzes you in the real world. When a real opportunity comes your way, rather than act upon it, you endlessly worry about it. You endlessly worry, well, if I do this and this happens and then this happens and then this might go and they might not like me. And
you may be so spun up you don't see the opportunity that comes your way.
Absolutely. Because
you're just in a state of worry and not awareness. So you miss things in awareness. And this is the thrust of this conversation. Is there something you can do to snap you out of that really tight ball? And that latter phrase of Tolle's, where he says, the way to be aligned with life. To understand that you can choose to be aligned with life. Now, I know people who have aligned with worry and believe that worry is their life.
Yeah.
So you have to separate what worry is from life.
we should, can I take a stab at defining that term, what aligned with life means? Because I think, unfortunately, that people will think, well, now I have to be in some sort of nirvana and sitting as a guru. And no, none of that. Although, certainly, that's not if that's your calling, do it. But the point of being aligned with life is a lot simpler than that. Being aligned with life means that you realize, you come to grips with the fact that life is not under your control and that life happens. So the very kernel of worry is control. People are afraid of not having control. We all are. We're all afraid of not having control. And the ego hands you this, well, if you do X, Y, and Z planning and think about it, you'll be in control. And to be aligned with life is to realize that nothing, this is truly the kernel of it, nothing you can do will give you control of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You control precisely one thing. You control you. And you control your reaction. But you cannot control life. You cannot control what happens to you or anybody else in the world. Now, this is not to say that you sit there and do absolutely nothing. You make a plan. Fine. When the plan doesn't work out, aligning with life is saying, in this moment, this is what is. I had a plan. Life had a different plan. Life's plan always wins, but your plan is to align with life and accept the present moment. My plan didn't work out. This is where we are right now, and control one thing precisely: yourself, your reactions, your emotions. You may be feeling frustrated. Feel frustrated, but don't be frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
You may be feeling angry. Feel angry, but don't be angry. Don't be in the ego moment of anger, because that's really the ego moment of anger, is being angry at yourself for not worrying enough to figure out how to control the situation.
Well,
isn't that an insane position?
Yeah. I if I worried enough, I could have avoided this. That's the overriding feeling. But,
and the guilt.
But that's not the truth of it.
No.
That's the point I'm trying to make. It's not true. When that voice comes up and tells you that you should have thought about this more, you could have possibly avoided it, that's your ego not wanting you to let it go, because it then would not have control over your focus. When you focus on worry, you are focusing on ego. And when you are in a situation much greater than yourself, wouldn't it be absurd to always concentrate on the one thing you know wouldn't be able to handle it? I mean, if you really want to go into crazy land, that's the best way to do it. This is way outside my control. I am going to focus on my ego and say, I can control this. I will do this. I will make it happen. And you haven't taken into account the larger picture. I want to go back to the analogy that we had used in the last segment about the wave coming in, and you are the surfer on the board of that wave. You cannot control the wave. What you can control is your reaction on the board and trying to get the ride out of it and not being wiped off the board.
Mm-hmm.
It's understanding that trying to control world situations is like you trying to control that wave coming into shore. That's not your job. No one gave you that job. You're there not to control it, but to experience it. What is this experience that I'm having with this wave?
May I make a point right there?
Sure.
Margaret just said you're there to experience it. You're there for more than that. You're there because you're supposed to be there. And sometimes there's something for you to do in that moment, but you will miss it. 100% will miss it if you're sitting there trying to control the situation. You say, I don't want this. I want anything else but this. I don't want this car accident. I don't want this bill. I don't want this. No. The moment comes in, the wave is there. You say that this is my wave, and I have something to do here. I'm here precisely because I'm supposed to be here. And that puts a completely different perspective on it. It gives your life, and this is a wrong way to say it. It gives your life purpose, but I want you to realize that your life and existence here have purpose, but you must do one thing to realize what that is. You have to be aware in the present moment that you are there for a purpose. The purpose may only be to observe. The purpose may be to save your own or someone else's life, or anything greater or anything lesser. But you're where you are precisely because that's where you are supposed to be. It's a profoundly important thing to be somewhere. Not to worry about the future or regret the past or to want to be anywhere else but this place or to talk to yourself endlessly in your ego voice about this and that and the other thing. The wave comes and you're there because that moment of existence and reality is where you are and need to be with purpose. And the purpose is being and perhaps doing.
Right. If you can take every moment in that vein, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. It puts a whole new spin on that statement. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
That could be your mantra.
Mm-hmm.
You literally in every situation could say that and it would put it in the right perspective. Yeah, everything's going crazy. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. And from that vantage point, because it gives you elevation, your eyes are raised higher at that point. You're not focused down and in on the minutia of the problem, all these little bits and pieces.
That's so good, Ma. That's so good. It gives you elevation. That's so good.
And in that perspective, when you will have your eyes in a much broader viewpoint, question that you can ask yourself is, what can I bring into existence in this moment? What can be made of this moment? Is it a moment that I can serve someone, help someone, expand a viewpoint for someone? Because you're at a higher elevation, so you see more than what other people may be able to perceive. Am I only to communicate that with these people? And many times that is exactly what you're supposed to do. From this viewpoint, this is what I see. And the discussion can begin. Are you there to take initiative towards a new pathway? Are you bringing your feet to something a little bit different? Or have you been going off your path and you need to realign back to the trueness of where you need to be? And there's always that feeling of, something's a little off here. So to stop and again come into that objective viewpoint, the higher, say, okay, what has been going on? What has these happenings made me walk on this other path? Can I bring myself back? How did I get sidetracked? Things like that.
Well, I want to just go back to that because I think what you said last show, what can I contribute?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be clear what Margaret said, and I know exactly what you meant, but I want to be clear. When we say that you have elevated yourself, it's incredibly important, but you are not greater than anyone else in that situation, because elevation carries the ego loves, oh, I'm elevated. I'm a higher being. No.
I said
you are in awareness. And in awareness, what you have said, in essence, is I'm exactly where I need to be. And in that being moment, you can open up for grace. And by saying these words to yourself, I'm exactly where I need to be. What can I contribute? And the answer from your heart will be instantaneous, and you have to be aware. They say, yes, that's what it is. And sometimes the answer is nothing. You're here to observe. You're here to be in this moment. You're here to potentially do nothing more than observe it. But if there is something that needs to be done, an action that needs to be taken, a grace that needs to be brought into the situation, you're there. You're open. The elevation that Margaret's talking about is that you've said, in essence, I'm exactly where I need to be. Your perspective has changed. Your consciousness is engaged. Your ego is minimized. It's still there, but it's minimized. The situation is not an overwhelming thing. It's just what is, and your consciousness encompasses what is. It is not buffeted by the wave. It is aware of the wave, the universe, the thing that is now. And then you ask that simple question from the perspective of the elevation of I am exactly where and this is not the ego I. This is what Tully calls the greater I, or the true I. What can I contribute in consciousness, in awareness? And it may be nothing particularly except being, but if there's something that you need to do, some grace you need to channel, you're ready, because the situation's already been accepted. What's happening is happening. I'm exactly where I need to be. And you can very, very quickly, or it's just part of what it is, what is at that moment, what is in that moment is there something that I can contribute? And if there is, it'll come right in. It'll literally just manifest. I can reach out a hand. I can say a word. I can listen. Isn't that a wonderful grace? Just listen. I may be able to fix something. I may be able to do something. I may just be able to calm the situation because I'm exactly where I need to be. The elevation is it totally turns it around, because you go from the ego saying we don't want to be here, we want to do anything else but this, everybody else is out to get us, everyone's killing it, and you just go, okay, you take a seat. Calm down. We're exactly where we need to be. What can I contribute?
Right. It's if you can ground into that moment and understand that you are observing what is going on around you, you can find very easily the most natural next step on the journey. You stop to take stock in terms of I'm placing my foot, my next step directly towards the end goal, whatever that may be. And again, it's not necessarily a doing thing. It is being in that state of peacefulness, wholeness. And when you do that, when you're in that peaceful whole state, you're able to perceive the whole viewpoint, not just small pieces, or the logic of a situation says this and this and this and this. There's more to you as a human being than analyzing something logically or going down the emotional path of this is the feelings that this is pulling up out of me. They're all part of you. But to come back to that wholeness means that you are aware of all of that and grounded into the moment of now where you have to make your choice, make your decision. So in that moment, in that, I hesitate to use the word action, in that movement maybe is a better word. In that movement, you begin to understand that what is actually happening is you are sending out this balanced viewpoint, balanced energy, and it gets reflected back to you by the world.
Mm-hmm.
So the opportunities or the choices or the observations that you need to see are reflected directly back to you in that wholeness, in that peacefulness. And you are not moved by the madness of any situation. That reflection is part of who we are when it comes to relationship. Now, this is you looking at the situation, that is a relationship. You and then the world and what's reflected back to you. That back and forth is a relationship. And relationship with others is also an aspect of that. And that's how the intimacy between you and the world and you and yourself grows. Because your world inevitably reflects back to you any inconsistencies or any things that you might be frightened of. And you will see it directly. It will just throw it right in your face, the world.
It's a very interesting point. But there's two things I wanted to just make sure that we go back and emphasize. What Margaret's talking about is exactly what Tolle was talking about. You're aligned with life when you are in this state of saying, I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm here because I'm here because I'm here because I'm supposed to be here. And the relationship, the intimacy that you're experiencing is also an intimacy of the immediate moment of now. If what you are doing in the moment of now is doing anything but being aligned, being in anxiety, oh this, oh that, this could happen, that could happen, regret, oh this happened and I didn't want that to happen, and you're fighting against it. All your emotions are, in essence, controlling you. The situation is controlling you. The wave is controlling you. You have nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah, doing in the moment of now is an ego reflection.
Yes.
Okay, and it's understanding that you are in what is. Has nothing to do with concepts of doing.
And I'm glad you said reflection, because the other part of what you said just a moment ago was that the world will reflect back to you what your anxieties are bringing forth from it. But the problem there is people immediately confuse that with manifestation. They say, well, if I project goodness into the world will give me goodness. And it becomes an immediate control and sort of an ego ride. That's not what actually happens. That's not what manifestation is. The manifestation that you have is align with the moment of now. align with life. Say, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. In that moment, in consciousness, you are open and aware to what must be next, what perhaps you might have to do. And this is the actual thing. In the awareness of that moment, if you need to have something physical manifested to do what needs to be done, it will be there. And you will be aware of it. It's the same sort of feeling. I think this is a good way to describe it. If you talk about the surfer and the wave, and as the wave comes and the surfer has trained themselves to be aware, to be in the moment, it feels effortless. The wave lifts them effortlessly. They fall into it beautifully. Witnessing somebody who is in the moment of now in performing an action, when you watch somebody do an amazing ballet or an amazing dance or an amazing ride on a surfboard, and they finish it and they say, it felt timeless. It felt like the moment would never end, because in the moment of realizing that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, you're also in a timeless moment. You're also in the moment of now, the instantaneous now, and everything that you need, everything that needs to be, will be right there. That's the manifestation. It comes after. It comes after, not before. You don't say, I'm going to need, $1 million, so there it is, and now I can do things. No. You open yourself to accepting life's situations. You align. You say, I'm exactly where I need to be. And because you're doing that, if you need a lot of resources to do what needs to be done, because you're the person on the spot in awareness to do it, it will be there. And it'll be natural and inevitable that it's there. And in awareness, you'll say, you open your hand and it will be filled with the resources you need, because it's the moment of now and it needs to be, and you're there. You've aligned yourself, and in some ways you've volunteered, but not really. You've just realized that you were the person to do what needed to be done.
Your frequency matters
exactly.
At that point, okay? It's not just a wish and
right. Right.
What is that phrase they always use? Name it and claim it.
Yes.
No.
No.
It has to do with the frequency, your internal frequency. So, if your heart is enveloped in this moment where this particular task need be done. And you need resources for it, you are completely understanding that, okay, this is a realization, but I'm not the one who's going to manifest it in terms of I'm going to push it through, I'm going to finance it, the financing will come to you, but it's not you. You are holding that frequency for the possibility of it to be executed. Whatever the need is in that moment, it will be done, and everything that needs be is there. And frankly, we have reached halfway through the hour.
We have, but let's just say one more thing. And it will be effortless. It will happen because it needs to happen. And you will be there with it because you needed to be there with it. Well, it sounds like destiny, but it's not. It's awareness.
You is not the ego. Whenever
exactly.
You wind up saying you, the ego is what pops in. It has nothing to do with you at all.
It is, your person has to be there. Your being has to be there. But we have the inadequacy of the words I and you. Have never been more complete, completely inadequate.
Right. But again, not about you.
Right. Well, in this exact moment, we're going to align with the commercial break. And we'll come back on the other side and talk more about escaping the prison of anxiety.
Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
Moonstones and Murder. Real murderers need a heart of stone. Meet Maggie and Mike Heartstone, parents of twin boys, entrepreneurs, and now empty nesters. Mike is retired, not by choice, from his position as chief of police in the picturesque resort town of Hamilton. And now his wife Maggie and her shop, the Cozy Crystal, are their only source of income. When a mysterious killing interrupts Hamilton's famous Springfield Park rock show, the townsfolk, the Cozy Crystal, and their lives are rocked to the core. Can Mike and Maggie figure out who is behind the murderous deeds before the town comes crashing down around them? A touch of romance, a little mayhem, and a whole lot of suspense, along with plenty of comedy and thrills galore. Get your crystal magnifying glass out. It's time for some Moonstones and Murder. Available on Amazon, Apple, Kobo, and other fine e-tailers in ebook and paperback. Out soon on Audible. Get your copy today.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lyons is book 1 of the adventures of Devkalion, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief Dev is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Brag Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Hi, this is William B. Davis, the actor who plays the Smoking Man, or did play the Smoking Man on The X-Files. I'm also a writer, director, producer, and I am delighted to tell you that you are listening to the ArtistFirst radio network.
This is The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lawrence.
And thank you very much, Seaman. And we are talking tonight about the prison of anxiety continued, and we're how we might escape it. But I might just at this juncture want to remark that what we're speaking of is not only the way to escape the prison of anxiety, it's the way to escape all the prisons. Because the moment of now is a moment which is inherently free. But go ahead, Ma.
Right.
Do you hear a hungry fat cat in the background?
Yes, our kitty.
I do too.
Yeah. Okay.
Local color.
I'm trying to remember where we were. Where did we leave off?
Where we left off was the fact that in the moment of realizing that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, you are in a line with life. You're not trying to control life. You're not listening to your ego. You're not listening to your worry or your fear or your anxiety or your regret or your emotions or your mental portion. Now, all of those things are there. But because you take the moment of now and say, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, they don't control you. It's not that they don't matter. They are part of the moment of now. You may feel, as I mentioned earlier, you may feel angry, but don't be angry. What's the difference? What's the difference between those two? Feeling angry means that an emotion which you identify as anger is rising up within you. It's there. It's part of the moment of now. It's why you're there. It's part of why you're there. But being angry means you say to yourself, I am angry. The little I, is now taking you away from this moment and putting you into the angry you, the pain body you. You are no longer in control. You're no longer riding the wave. The wave is riding you. It's buffeting you around. You're now going to try to control the situation. Haven't you heard this? Oh, you got to control the situation. You got to tell them what to do. You got to demand your rights. You got to look for a better income, a better outcome, a better something come. No. Because all that's the road to first of all, endless frustration, endless self-doubt, endless worry, endless prisons, trying to control the moment of now, trying your little self, trying to put your hands on the world. As the saying goes, your hands are too small to box, or your arms are too short to box with God. You know, the term, this is going to feel like a non sequitur, but the term Israel means those who wrestle with God. There is nothing more silly in one regard than trying to wrestle with the universe, with reality, with God. But align yourself with God, align yourself with the all, with the universe.
With life.
With life. Be in the moment of now. And you say, well, I'm powerful. No. You're timeless. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, and you're being in it.
Right. What I'd like to just make a distinction on is that aligning with life, which is the being state, a life force, your pathway, is not aligning with the universe. The universe is a creation. It is the board that you are existing on. So aligning with the universe means that you're just playing by the rules or laws of the universe. But you are something that is much more. You actually can make decisions within this frame of reference, this field of being.
I agree. I like that distinction. And I think the other thing about when you say align with the universe is it runs again to feed the ego state of you can align with it and control it and name it and claim it. No, Margaret is right in this regard. You have to be aware that your consciousness contains the universe. It's greater than the universe. All the universe happens within your consciousness. All of it. happens within your consciousness.
And it's fascinating because your perceptions, you think you know what your perceptions are, but you haven't even begun to explore the ways in which you begin to perceive what is out there and how your mind actually picks and chooses certain aspects of what's going on around you and puts it together in almost like a storyboard in front of you and saying, okay, well, there's this and this and this and this. And if it's not something it expects, it will miss it. It will miss seeing it. And that's the reason why being in that more peaceful, grounded, expanded state where your eyes are raised higher, you will be able to take into account things outside the way you usually operate every day.
The blindness of normalcy,
The filter of normal that runs in your head. Believe it or not, you have a filter of normal that you've put into your head in order to manage what's going on every day.
And it's just I know we're kind of expounding upon this rather, but when you look at an infant, prior to them having the filter of normal, the moment that they're in, the moment of reality that they're in, is a being state. When you interact with them, if you're interacting with them eye to eye, heart to heart, you're also in that state. You meet them there, and you know it's a different state. You know that being doesn't have the normal filter. They're kind of wide open. They're getting all the perceptions at once. Sometimes it's terribly overwhelming. They say that infants often sleep as much as they do, not just because they need the rest, because their minds need to draw back from this fire hose of experience that they're going through.
Right.
And yes, you build the normal filter for more than just the reason of it needs to be there, perhaps for the way you have to operate or the way you think you have to operate. But it's sort of also a way of dealing with the fire hose. It's not the best way to deal with it. The best way, or the way that is more in alignment with life, is to say, I'm exactly where I need to be and accepting the moment of now. But the normal filter, it provides sort of a shield against the moment of now. It tries to keep it away from you a little bit. It's sort of a defensive thing. It's an unconscious defensive thing. In consciousness, you have to drop that. And that can be part of the fear of being aware, is that you are more exposed to the moment of now. The wave is bigger, faster, more overwhelming than you could possibly imagine. Yet, you don't need your imagination. In awareness, you accept all those things. You accept the fact that the wave is a force of nature, but you contain it in your consciousness. It's much scarier than the normal filter, but it's also much more exhilarating.
Well, I'd say that filter of what you consider normal for every day can be adapted.
Yes.
You can choose to put certain, how do I say this? It takes certain blockages out, because when you realize that, well, gee, I've been pushing that away for all this time. My filter is not allowing me to see this. I think it's time I need to see this. You can actually choose to allow certain things in. And in order to do that, though, you have to let go of your fear. You have to let go of the constant, common, everyday worries that you have going from day to day. And that's a choice. And it could be a very scary choice because you may have reorganized everything because you feel like there's too many things I got to do. I've got to place them in this particular order, and that is your filter. You will basically begun the process of setting up your filter. Saying that, okay, I'm going to let that go. It's very scary. It's like, no, I've just organized everything so that I can manage this and this and this all in my day. But have you realized that you are missing a lot?
Well, I might say, Margaret, that there's also the danger of that, right? You set up your filter and you say, I've organized my whole day. When that doesn't work, when reality intrudes, that's a very fragile construct.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, it's much scarier to say that I accept the moment of now, and I am aware that although I may plan to do whatever it may be, what comes to me is what comes to me.
Well, you have to be willing to allow yourself to let go of being anxious, because that is something that will come back as the what if. Well, what if this? Well, what if, I'm missing this? Like, let's start where you are. Aren't you missing something? Are you willing to let go of the fear? Because the filter has been made on the basis of fear.
Well, and the routine
has been made on the basis of fear.
Right.
So everything that comes to you, that reflection, is going to show you your fear. Is that what you want?
Well, and we might talk just for a moment about routine. People use routine in the filters, which is basically another form of routine. They use the routine and the normalcy filter to push back against the moment of now. I'm sorry, that can't happen right now. It's not in my schedule. It's not the right time. I haven't put any time aside for it. It can't happen. But it happens. And we saw many times going through the experience with Christopher where the routine was shattered, and the people who were using that routine as their spine, as what was keeping their heads above water, were similarly shattered by the lack of the routine, would drive them literally to an insane position, a paralyzed position, a position of fear.
Well, they kept trying to reestablish a routine.
The routine.
And it's too small to contain what was actually going on.
And it was the shards of the routine were cutting them, were damaging them, because with every new break in the routine, it was magnified. If instead, taking the scarier, what appears to be the insane position of saying, I don't have a routine. It's just me as a being, exactly where I'm supposed to be in this moment. And I have all these capabilities, but I just have to realize through grace which one of them needs to be employed, or none. And I'll have, you see, this is the trust. There's a faith to this too. You say, I'm in the moment of now, something's happening, I'm going to trust, I'm going to have a moment of faith that what needs to be will be there if I need it to be for this moment. In other words, the grace will come in, the strength will be there. What you need to do, what needs to be done, will be there for you if it needs to be. There's a lot of B's in there, but you understand?
Yeah, well, it's circular at that point. But
it's faith.
Faith is, and you must keep your eyes high in order for you to come back to a point of stability. So in that moment where everything is spinning, what we had always done was focus on what can be elevated or edified.
Hmm.
Right. And just a simple example of that was with Christopher. What can be done so that he can have some freedom in a constrained environment? I mean, in transplant, you can only be in one room, and you talk about masking up. You're masked, you're down, you've got everything on. And your freedoms are curtailed. You tried very hard to find ways to elevate and build up his being. So this is where we began with learning about the hero.
And also to accept that this was the situation, we were exactly where we needed to be. And the hero in that moment does the same. The hero says, I don't want this situation, but I am the person. I'm exactly where I need to be. This is my dragon versus this is my wave. But the wave and the dragon are the same. They're forces of nature. But you, the hero, will have the resources, the courage, the sword, the depth of character to defeat your dragon in the moment of now.
And it's understanding that when you do that and you choose the path of the hero, you are growing. And so is the one you love deeply, maturing, soul maturing. And I believe we've reached the end of our hour.
We have, but I'm not anxious about it.
No, I am not. So I'm Margaret.
And I'm Michael.
And thank you for listening.